Yeah, yeah. We have that. And we have the new camera. And one of the visions and goals that we've had for a long time is we have a web presence. We're now going to be on YouTube. So make sure you know, as you walk in or out, just, you know, you have to dress differently and smile accordingly and wave and do all. I started thinking about that. I did not have the courage to look at last week's talk online. It's like, I could not deal with looking, you know, it's like, no, it's okay. And then it's this, I didn't move around as much. I can't. Is this really good? Does this work? Are you following me? Are you all enthused now? I'm so animated. Anyway, we're now online. We're now a YouTube presence, and we're going to grow that. And we have more things that we want to do. We have other intentions, which I'll get to later for our center. So then I thought, well, that's all good about the center. And then I thought, oh, I have to look at my stuff too, don't I? Well, okay. So I don't know about you, but then the first thing that did is I started thinking back. This is this goofy human nature. I started thinking about the things that I didn't accomplish. It's like, wait a minute, watch that. You know, I paid attention to that response. Oh yeah, I didn't do that, and that I had in my mind. It was like, stop that. Well, you can't teach that on Sunday. All right, so what is it? Oh, let's see. So what did I do? Did I write anything down? Because I was so nervous. Oh yes, I took one yoga class and did a headstand. I mean, that was impressive. I started the process of cleaning out my closet. And now that we're taping and on camera, I'm going to really have to pay attention to that. What else did I do? I released 2 boxes of books. No small task. It took me 6 months to release the 6 books. What else did I do? You know, I've started writing again the blogs up, and I did change my eating program rather drastically. So yes, I have accomplished things, and yes, I have some more things that I want to put back into the intention hopper and put a little energy on and create for the rest of this year and beyond. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So Eileen Caddy says, expect the most wonderful things to happen, not in the future, but right now. Realize that nothing is too good. That's a tricky one for me. Realize that nothing is too good. I don't know about you, but I have a very old pattern that I'm willing to release and have been working on, that when things start going really, really well, that I get a little anxious, that there's that shoe that's going to drop. And then I grew up with a phrase, which I don't like, if it's too good to be true. It's too good to be true. And then I started thinking about that all week, and I went, no, wait. If it's too good, it has to be true. Because that's the nature of God, good, God. So if something is feeling really good, then it is true. And true is part of the word truth. And I was really excited to understand that for myself. So this week was an interesting week in observing all of that and the intentions as our center is growing. And I spent a lot of time this week serving our congregants at Enloe. We had 4 people in there with some pretty serious things and major surgeries. And so I spent a lot of time there, which can alter one's perception of a lot of things. So as you're dealing with and watching other people who are going through really difficult times, scary things, facing surgeries, feeling like life and death situations, and you are there and you're in support and you're holding the conscious and the high watch, and then you wonder every once in a while, okay, get clear. And then, I don't know if you've ever been there, do you know that then suddenly you're standing there and you're with someone, and then this lullaby starts to play. This lullaby. And the first time that happened, I thought, well, it's the middle of the morning, you know, not a really good plan for a lullaby, but okay. The lullaby, and so I found out, and every time there's a lullaby played over the loudspeakers, a new baby is born. Does that give you a perspective or what? So you can be standing there with someone who's getting ready to wheel in for a major surgery, and suddenly you hear this lullaby, and you think, oh my goodness, look at that entire spectrum of life in all of 3 seconds or less. And so it's so funny because I would look at the clock to see what time this child, who I didn't know, I don't know if it was a boy or girl, who it belonged to, where or what, but it was this sudden awareness that in that instant there was a new life. a new opportunity, a new chance for growth, a new intention set and outpictured for the parents and the family, I'm sure. And it was just this delicious experience of remembering this connection to life. And then as I went yesterday to visit, 3 out of the 4 are now checked out of the hospital, which is really good. And as I went to visit one of our congregants who was being released, I got there just in time as he was being signed out and getting ready. And so his wife went to get the car, and I said, well, I'll walk down with you with the wheelchair down to the parking thing. So the nurse, of course, is doing that because I'm not allowed to do that. And we were talking, and I just turned to the nurse because I was listening to her voice. And I said, excuse me, do you mind if I ask you, are you from Wisconsin? And she kind of looked at me, and I thought, oh, I've just offended her. I'm sorry. And she said, yes, I am. How did you know? And I said, I'm sorry. I had a friend from Manitowoc, Wisconsin, and I'm very keen on accents and dialects. And I said, it's not very strong. I just picked up on shit. And she stopped the wheelchair, and she went, I was born in Manitowoc. So she's looking at me like I'm some sort of woo-woo, you know, because I introduced myself as his minister, and it's like, how do you know these things? But then we just started chatting. And I mean, the fact that I could identify out of 2 sentences this woman's origin of birth, maybe I'm into this DNA thing. And then we started this conversation, and then I had to remember to talk to the congregant because I was like having this great conversation with this nurse from Wisconsin about all of that. And then while we're standing there, and I realized, once again, being there, being fully present, open to the expression and the interactions of life, wow, what a concept. And yet the idea of, going to Enloe could seem daunting. Or it's like, people have a certain attachment to what, they think a hospital's about. And yet there I am, and there's this wonderful woman, and I had this experience, this, Wisconsin, this Wisconsin experience with her. So she said she's going back this summer, and she said when she comes back, the accent really kicks in. And I said, it's really very subtle right now, but I can hear it. So I thought, isn't this wonderful about how if we stay open and present, we get to experience all of this of life, newborn babies, people healing themselves, demonstrations of perfect healing from these surgeries, and then meeting someone you've, never met and identified. So we were talking about health and wholeness, and over the week something came through the internet, as it often does, and it was interesting because it had a very provocative, grabbed me title, and it was 10 spiritually transmitted diseases. So I went back and I looked at it again to make sure I read that right. And for those of you who are new to religious science, let me remind you that we use the word disease. We don't think of it quite the same way. We look at it as the root of the word dis-ease, so that when the body or mind is diseased, it outpictures certain ailments and symptoms, etc. So I went back and I went, okay, 10 spiritually transmitted diseases. Okay, I'm going to read this. And then I thought, you know what? It actually is appropriate to understanding some things so that we can get clear enough for our mid-year checkup. So this is from the author, Dr. Mariana Kaplan, and she writes from her book, Eyes Wide Open, Cultivating Discernment on the Spiritual Path. Okay, so she's a psychotherapist, and she feels that there are spiritual views, and she's working with her partner on this, and she said this isn't the definitive list, but it's about where we get stuck and where we might be uncomfortable, diseased, not at ease, and maybe off-kilter with our spiritual practice. And I thought, well, that could apply to what we're talking about today if we're having a checkup. So number 1 on her list, so she has 10, and I'm going to go over them and interject a few things in between. The first disease is fast food spirituality. Mix spirituality with a culture that celebrates speed, multitasking, and instant gratification, and the result is likely to be fast food spirituality, a product of the common and understandable fantasy that relief from the suffering of our human condition can be quick and easy. One thing is clear, however, spiritual transformation cannot be had in a quick fix. Duh! How many of us who find our way to some branch of new thought and self-help and healing, we think it's like, oh, we're going to get it. I'm going to read that one book. I'm going to go listen to that one lecture. And healed. Not. It's a process. It's a path. Then we listen to our Eastern folks. And then I found a quote from Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith, who says, remember that practice does not make perfect. It is the practice of perfection that makes perfect. Ooh, I'll read it again. You liked it. Remember that practice does not make perfect. It is the practice of perfection that makes perfect. And since we teach that we are perfect, whole, and complete, just as we are and just as we are not, then all we need to do is continue practicing our own perfection. Number 2, faux spirituality. Faux spirituality is the tendency to talk, dress, and act as we imagine a spiritual person would. It is a kind of initiation spirituality that mimics real spiritual realization. And I thought about that, and I thought, I don't know of what that would mean. I don't know how anyone, unless someone were to adopt an Indian accent to sound like Deepak, or I couldn't figure that one out. That one, I was like, nah, I had no. Number 3, confused motivations. Ooh. Although our desire to grow is genuine and pure, it often gets mixed with lesser motivations, including the wish to be loved, the desire to belong, the need to fill our internal emptiness, the belief that the spiritual path will remove our suffering and spiritual ambition, the wish to be special, to be better, or to be the one. Okay. So we often get stuck in wanting the things that we think we're supposed to want. There's a difference. And so perhaps when we created our lists of intentions and goals for 2013, on the list may have been things that you thought you were supposed to want or do or accomplish because that's what was expected of you. And if that's the case on any level, and chances are you didn't meet those goals and intentions, then you started to feel less than, or perhaps even that you failed, and you weren't even realizing that those goals and intentions weren't yours in the first place. So this is why we have a mid-year checkup to really ascertain, are those goals and desires that you have listed or you've outpictured on your vision board or in the quiet recesses of your heart, are those really yours? Or is that what you think you're supposed to do? That's what's supposed to happen by this age, by this time, this month, this, etc., as opposed to the genuine ones from us. Number 4, identifying with spiritual experiences. In this disease, the ego identifies with our spiritual experience and takes it as its own, and we begin to believe that we are embodying insights that have arisen within us. Okay. Then she goes on further. Number 5, the spiritualized ego. Interesting. This disease occurs when the very structure of the egoic personality becomes deeply embedded with spiritual concepts and ideas. The result is an egoic structure that is bulletproof. When the ego becomes spiritualized, we are invulnerable to help, new input, or constructive feedback. We become impenetrable humans and are stunted in our spiritual growth, all in the name of spirituality. That one we have to be careful about, because we teach in religious science, our ego, that part of us that we kind of identify with ego in our personality, is not separate and is not bad or wrong. It is not something that we wish to, disown. It is a part of who we are, and yet there are times when we have to keep our ego in check. Number 6, this one's funny, mass production of spiritual teachers. This kind of goes with my talk from a couple of weeks ago, FOMO, fear of missing out. There are a number of current trendy spiritual traditions that produce people who believe themselves to be at a level of spiritual enlightenment or mastery that is far beyond the actual level. This disease functions like a spiritual conveyor belt. Put on the glow, get that insight, and wham bam, you're enlightened and ready to enlighten others in similar fashion. The problem is not such teachers instruct, but that they represent themselves of having achieved spiritual mastery. So, you want to check out all those people on the web and the books and do that, and choose your spiritual teachers wisely and intuitively from your soul. Number 7, spiritual pride. She's got like 4 ego ones here. Spiritual pride arises when the practitioner, through years of labored effort, has actually attained a certain level of wisdom and uses that attainment to justify shutting down to further experience. A feeling of spiritual superiority is another symptom of this transmitted disease. It manifests a subtle feeling that I am better, more wise, and above others because I am spiritual. I don't need to handle that. I know better. I've got it. So that's the other end of the ego coin. Oh, no problem. Well, that's a queen wave. I wonder what the spiritual wave would be. But number 8, group mind. Also described as groupthink, or what we've sometimes seen as the cult mentality or ashram disease. Group mind is an insidious virus that contains elements of traditional codependence. A spiritual group makes subtle and unconscious agreements regarding the correct ways to think, talk, dress, and act. Individuals and groups infected with a group mind reject individuals, attitudes, and circumstances that do not conform to the often unwritten rules of this group. I thought about that one because I wanted to make sure we didn't fall into that, and we don't. We don't. Not only because I don't require to wear uniforms on a Sunday, we don't require check-in, an attendance sheet. We don't. The thing that I love, well, of the million things that I love about religious science and Ernest Holmes, his whole concept of being open at the top, being nonconformist. He was completely influenced by all the transcendentalists and nonconformists so that we could be the authentic beings that we are, think what we want to think, wear what we want to wear, sing, dance, do all of that from our own integrity. And we get to do that. That's part of the beauty of this teaching. And so I don't feel that we fall into that, because religious science groups teach you how to think, not what to think. And that is the key difference, I believe, in a lot of the other faiths and religions, all of which have merit and value to us as individuals. Number 9, the chosen people complex. It is the belief that our group is more spiritually evolved, powerful, enlightened, and simply put, better than any other group. Talk about an ego. So this is an ego distinction for the group think. There is an important distinction between the recognition that one has found the right path or the right teacher or the community for themselves and having found the one. So that's where we differ. We don't teach that this is the only way to be healed. This teaching, this center, you got to come here to be healed. You got to come here to understand how to do your spiritual practice. This is the only way. Religious science, science of mind is the one and only answer. We don't teach that. We teach that it's eclectic, it's open at the top. We do Eastern things, we do Western things. We have different modalities throughout the week. We teach from the Science of Mind textbook. We teach from the Bible. Sometimes we teach from a lot of our guest authors, some of the things in there, and sometimes, knowing me, I'll teach you from a show tune. So we're open to that. It's not rigid. Then the last one she has, number 10, she calls the deadly virus. I think she's got some dramatic words here, but I have arrived. This disease is so potent that it has the capacity to be terminal to our spiritual evolution. This is the belief that I have arrived and the final goal of a spiritual path. Our spiritual progress ends at the point where this belief becomes crystallized in our psyche. For the moment that we begin to believe that we have reached the end of our path, further growth ceases. So if we think we got it, we think we've handled it. We get the and then we get the A+ on the paper. We get we do our spiritual mind treatment. We get this perfect demonstration, and we think, okay, book closed and done. I have arrived. Usually when that happens, you arrive, and then there's that big thunk as you flop to your bottom. And then you're on the ground, you go, huh? How'd that happen? What we do is we teach that, yes, when we have the answer to the prayer. Yes, when we have the aha. Yes, when the demonstration shows up, we go, I have arrived at understanding how to use these principles to uplift my life and better my experience. I have arrived at a place of spiritual evolution that is spiraling upward. Not, I have arrived, I'm done, bye-bye. So some of these things I think are good for us to look at, but I think some of them don't apply to who we are. And I'm really grateful that we have a center, a community where people can come, or as Don said, maybe come back, and that you find something here that serves you, that supports you, that might give you a little more fodder, a little more fuel on the journey to keep you going. Because that's why we're here. You've heard it a gazillion times. It's not the destination, it's the journey. Well, it's true. That's what it's about. The journey. And we have this environment here that is a way station, kind of a depot of, depot, I wonder, God depot. Home Depot. Home Depot has a new meaning to me. Home Depot, we are your community Home Depot, by which you can get the tools that you need to build a better life. Oh my God, that's going on the internet. Do you think Home Depot's going to track me down for that? Eek, eek. But it's true. That's why part of our motto, our phrase is that we living, loving, and learning together. Because we get to live. We're a spiritual center for living. And we love, oh gosh, why? Oh yes. I mean, that's the privilege part. And we're here to learn. We're here to learn. We're here to learn more about spiritual living. We're here to learn more about spiritual loving. And we're here to learn more about each other and ourselves as we walk this path. So if you have looked back and thought, I didn't quite get everything done yet, the good news is you still have 6 months ahead of you. The additional good news is you have the tools by which that you can create the environment first. That means the mental environment and spiritual environment by which you may then create the external environment that you want. That you have the opportunity from this point on for the, your checkup from the neck up to change your thinking and your belief and your feelings about things so that you can be creating, outpicturing, manifesting the things that you want in your life. So Dr. Kaplan goes on to say, she believes that a critical part of learning discernment on the spiritual path is discovering the pervasive illnesses of the ego and self-deception that are in us all. That is when we need a sense of humor, and support of the real spiritual friends. She starts to soften here, As we face our obstacles to spiritual growth, there are times when it is easy to fall into a sense of despair and self-diminishment or lose our confidence on the path. We must keep the faith in ourselves and in others in order to really make a difference in the world. Yes, I think I could have distilled that whole thing down to that. We must keep the faith in ourselves and our others in order to really make a difference in the world, to be the change that we want to see. And Jean Brown says, today's opportunities erase yesterday's failures. And that's really important for us. Because if you're one of the ones who, as I asked that question, started to list the things you didn't accomplish as yet, whether it's from the January list or from the list that started on Monday that you didn't accomplish, we have to remember that. Behold, I make all things new. Whew. I rest on that quite a lot, every so often when I'm doing that. So then, I was inspired and reminded by a meditation by Dr. Joan Borisenko that we are either moving towards what we want or moving away from what we don't want. And Abraham Hicks always talks about you need to be in the vibrational energetic to create that which you desire, not what you don't want. And that's how they teach about contrast. And many of us who have been on this path, when you get something, or perhaps you prayed for something you didn't realize, and it comes into your life, and you go, oh, that ain't it. Oh, I'm really clear that's not where I want to go or be or do, etc. But some of us are reluctant, shy or reticent to be expanding and allowing what is it we really want to do. Not what someone thinks you should do or be. What is it that speaks to you of your heart? So Dr. Borisenko says that she suggests 3 simple steps to set the intentions for what we do want. And when we identify what we want, we get to turn towards those things. Her first step is to choose them. Choose. I mean, that sounds so simple. But, I have Libra rising, and I know that's astrological, mean nothing to you. But decisions, I'm like, oh, well, that one's really nice. Oh, but that one, I have a coupon for that one. Yeah, but that one's longer lasting. Oh, but that has a green label. I like green. For me, sometimes decisions are that crazy. And so if it's that crazy in trying to make a decision in a supermarket, when it's trying to make the decision about your life's path, sometimes we don't choose because we're afraid we're going to choose wrong or not correctly, or that if we choose, it won't happen. So what we go back to is what we teach, and so we need to get very clear about our desires, our intentions, and our choices, and then begin to focus upon that. Put our attention and energy on that, which is the second step, she said, which is to feel that in our body, to feel it with emotion and visualization. Sam Keen talks about fire in the belly. It's one thing up here to say in your head, well, I really want to write the world's greatest novel. Again, it's like when you told me I had to be on the camera. Not very animated. Where is the passion about whatever that desire is? Even if it's I really want to clean and organize my office. No laughing out there. If I really want to do that, how does it feel to know that? How would it feel to have that handled? How would it feel to write that? Envision yourself on Oprah. Start to use the emotional instrument that you have as well as the thinking instrument when you write down what it is you want to accomplish. You need to feel it. And her third step, now here's the one that I forgot. Her third step is now you need to initiate a plan of accountability. She suggests something like, write down a date, work with a prayer partner. She didn't say prayer partner, a buddy, someone who's going to say, how's that coming along? How's that closet looking? Are you writing today? What's going on for you? That you have some accountability for that. That's the part that I forget, the measurement part. Because then it seems real. Then it seems really responsible. Then, oh my gosh, I really have to do it. Well, if that's the case, if I really have to do it, then I really must go back to step one and make sure that what the intention or goal is that I choose is one that I choose, that I desire, not something that I think is supposed to happen to make someone else happy. Because if it's supposed to make someone else happy, probably I have no emotion for it. And I don't want to be accountable for it because I probably didn't want to do it in the first place. So I want to get back to those goals and intentions that just excite me. Where you get that, oh, that would be so cool if, and oh, yes, oh, and I can see it now. I can see clearly. Ooh. I'm thinking the fantastic, I can see it. But that's a different song. Sorry about that, Allison. That'll make no sense to anyone if you don't know the Fantastics. That will make sense. So I went to some of the things that I want, intentions that I have for our center. So I'm saying them out loud to you, gulp, so that there's accountability. So that you can come to me and say, how's that going? Are we moving forward on that? And some of the things that I'd like to see us is grow so much with people coming and we're serving them that we go to 2 services. So that so we have one morning service that's a little more gentle and quiet, meditative, and then we have this one that's a little more animated. But 2 services. I'm looking forward to creating where we have a Wednesday night evening service every week again in the fall, where I'm really, that's my vision out here, so that we have somewhere on a Wednesday night that you can come every Wednesday night in the middle of the week, where sometimes in the middle of the week it's like you need a place to just come and hang and talk or pray or be still or meditate. So I want that. I want to see us grow in our outreach presence, which we're doing. We really are. And I want it more. I'd like to see a PowerPoint team so that when we create things, you'll have that on that beautiful screen that Carl brought down, that you'll have the announcements or the song lyrics or beautiful graphics that go with, I always say things to you and then I realize you're not knowing what I'm talking about. And if I had something here, it could match. And we're going to create an expansion of the AV team for people to be the camera operators and uploading. So we stay on my next thing, which is a very strong web presence. Down the line, move to live streaming. But being able to have something on YouTube or anything thereof so that people connect. I got an email from a congregant. I didn't ask her permission, so I'll stay anonymous. But she wrote, and she's away for the summer, and she wrote and she said, it was so cool to be able to connect with my community while we're gone. And she thanked us because we had uploaded that. And you have that. So I'm looking forward to that PowerPoint live streaming and expanding the things that we want to do. And and expanding to the things that you guys are wanting us to do and be as a center. So those are some of the things for which I want accountability. Ernest Holmes says, man is a center in the consciousness of God. And since God is everywhere, it naturally follows that we always stand at the threshold of divine wisdom, infinite peace, and perfect power. So if we're standing at the threshold of that divine wisdom, infinite peace, and perfect power, then whatever it is that we get in touch with, about our desires, we have the ability by which to make them happen. We really do. And I continue to say that it is our charge to actually practice these principles and make them that demonstrated, tangible in the world, so that all may see our works manifested. Know that they too, you too, I can't, not YouTube, you also, may make this happen and picture. So let's do a little process, if we're in another country. So what I'm going to ask, if you can, just get still, put stuff off your lap, and close your eyes. Some people like to meditate with their eyes open, a Buddhist technique, but in this case, it's closing the eyes so that the sounds and lights, the things, don't distract you. And take a breath. Oh, how I love that breath, the breath of life. God's inspiration, literally for the body, as well as the inspiration for the mind, capital M. And feel it fill the belly, the torso. You don't breathe with your shoulders, you breathe with your lungs and your diaphragm. And let that breath bring you into a centered and sacred space. And knowing all that we've said and anything that may have touched a point for you or a tiny aha. Now what I'd like you to do is allow your mind to settle in on a situation or an item that you would like to have changed or altered to a more desirable condition. Something current. You don't have to pick it from a long time ago. It could be really minor. It could be about changing a belief. It could be about a project, but let your mind choose something that you would like to see changed. As you begin to identify it, see if you can really identify it. Is it tangible? What does it look like? How does it feel to you? Use as many adjectives about it as you can. Really get in touch with whatever that item is that you want to change, or that belief. Describe it to yourself in physical or emotional form so that you have a picture of it. And now you take a breath in, and it's that there's a grand organ chord and light shines upon it. Begin to see that thing or that pattern or that situation in the state or the end result that you desire. Shift it. Use the magic and the theater of your mind, or the cinematography of your mind, and transform it. If it's a thought pattern, perhaps all you need to do is feel what it would feel like not to have that negative thinking, not to have that inner critic and monkey mind yammering at you all the time. What it would feel like to think, act, and move with ease and grace. Don't go back to the old picture. Bring your mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional attention on this out-picturing this desire that you want to create. Now, every time that you do as much of that picture with as many senses as you can, smell, sound, taste, touch, the more it becomes real. The more the feeling nature syncs up with the mental architect by which you may out-picture that which you desire. And then as you get in touch with it, as it starts to take shape and form, and for some it may still be a little bit vague, a little opaque. For others it's crystal clear and strong in primary colors and 4 and 5 dimensions. Wherever it is within you, that's okay. Because all you need to do is remember that you are now activating the creative law of God in action. Creating the perfect physical or emotional vibration to match that which you wish to see in your life. And as you do, remember that happens now. That does take place now, in this moment, in this powerful present. And while you're staying in that meditative space, I'm going to close with a quote from Abraham Hicks. Being happy is the cornerstone of all that you are. Nothing is more important than that you feel good. And you have absolute and utter control about that, because you can choose the thought that makes you worry, or you can choose the thought that makes you happy. You can choose the things that thrill you or the things that worry you. You have the choice in every moment. A checkup from the neck up. Checking in on your thoughts, your feelings, and changing your thoughts, your mind, your belief. So it is from that space, now that we have created that environment, that I'll take us into our spiritual mind treatment. Spiritual mind treatment is a form of affirmative prayer, 5 steps that we do in religious science. And I speak it in the first person so that you may speak it along with me, so that it becomes your prayer is my prayer too. There is only one life, and that life is God. Call it God, call it nature, call it this force, call it spirit, call it the holy presence. Mother, Father, God, the one life, the one mind, the one that I am. And as I affirm and know that, I realize that makes me one with all of nature, all of life, all of our human friends on the journey, all of our animal companions, all of the brilliance within technology, all of the possibilities of life outpicturing are my possibilities. I am one with that, one with the infinite mind of God right here and right now, always. And as I align with that, I know that everything within me is possible. All things are possible in God. I know that there is a divine timing that is taking place for my goals, my intentions, my desires. I know that answered prayer happens now. I know and accept that as I align with this, that there are people in this very room who join with me in that as a spiritual community, as friends, as colleagues. I know that there are people around the globe right now joining me in a prayerful consciousness of this infinite truth. I know that I share this within the one mind of God, the same mind that was in Ernest Holmes or in Buddha or in Jesus the Christ. That one mind is my mind. Molecularly, spiritually, metaphorically, I am that I am. So with that, the calendar is dispensed, and I start anew and know that my good is self-created, capital S, self, with the small s embedded in that, because that small self that I think that I am in this individual life is the life of God, the greater self of God, who I am. And so I breathe that in. And I know that I am spiritually healthy, whole, perfect, and complete. And that all that I ever could need, I have within me, here and now. Breathe that in. Know that that has shifted, that the change has already taken place, that as you leave here today, you are transformed by the renewal of your mind. And so in absolute gratitude, with a whole lot of enthusiasm and excitement about the fact that, yes, that is the truth, I now release this prayer into the infinite mind, back to the creative law, to know that it's already being worked on, and I need only be present to my life now and continue moving forward with light, ease, grace, and joy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I release it. Join me as we say, and so it is, and so I am, and so we are. Amen.